Hello, I'm Ash Mukherjee. I'm an Indian classical dancer. I also choreograph and teach using music from the Indian film industry. I was born in Calcutta, now Kolkata. Calcutta is generally regarded as the cultural capital of India, and it's a great place to be in if you're interested in the arts, because you kind of get the best of both worlds. We had everyone from Ravi Shankar and Balmurali Krishnan to Jagjit Singh performing in Calcutta. We had everybody from Ravi Shankar to Balmurali Krishnan to Chitra Visheshwaran to Pandit Birju Maharaj performing in India, in Calcutta. So it was a wonderful place to grow up. What inspires me to dance, or what was my first inspiration? Rhythm. Um, I was passionate about rhythm. My dad played the tabla, so it was kind of inherent, it was always around me. My mom was a Hindustani classical singer. So I was very lucky because my dad played the tabla, my mom sang, and I danced. That was the sort of the most natural progression. And we would have these, these evening soirees up in the terrace. And that's what would happen. People would come and everyone would sing and play the tabla. And I would be the one person just getting up, the one freak, just dancing. So that's how they realized that I was a dancer and put me into dancing. So it was a combination of rhythm. The statue of Nataraja also played a huge part in me wanting to become a dancer. I was fascinated by the statue of Nataraj, with the right leg standing on the dwarf and the left leg up, and the right hand blessing and the left hand pointing towards the left foot, with this cosmic theater around him. So that was fascinating. And also Indian mythological stories to do with Shiva, to do with Nataraj. Indian music is so very rich, Indian ragas, but not just Indian music, Tchaikovsky, things like that, Swan Lake when I was a kid. All these, there was a lot of varied inputs into my inspiration as a dancer, I guess. One of my inspirations to dance is also my own body. I remember when I was a kid, being fascinated by my torso and its positions going sort of right to left, and feeling quite excited by it, and then finding the center. And I didn't know why I was feeling good about moving my body, but I was, and it was the most natural thing. And the plie. I remember not walking from one room to the other, but I was just always in this ridiculous state of dance, which my parents couldn't deal with sometimes, because I had all this energy. So that was kind of why they put me into dance school, because I was always making so much noise, stamping on the ground and turning, and never broke anything though. Anyway, my first teacher was actually my mother took me to this Katha class, and there was about 80 or 90 students in this tiny room, and in this sort of hot, humid Calcutta, summer's evening, and everybody was talking, and it was this real pandemonium, and I remember not liking it at all, saying, I don't want to learn to dance over here. So my first classes were literally, sort of teaching myself, looking at TV, and this is where the whole Bollywood thing comes in, because I would see Hemaji or Shambhu Maharaj and all these amazing people, or Kishan Maharaj dancing on screen, and that was what was really inspiring, because these were great classical dancers who were dancing in film, and of course the whole film excited me, because it was there was costumes, there were great sets, and all of that, and I was very lucky to see these great dances, and also little excerpts of Swan Lake from the Bolshoi, or so all these things made me want to create my own things. Then I went to Uday Shankar Cultural Center, and Uday Shankar's wife, Amala Shankar, took me under her wing briefly, and I remember she she really encouraged my love of improvisation, and she would always encourage me to improvise. And we would learn their repertoire as well, which was so yes, it was all these very hybrid forms, because Uday Shankar's form, he was a pioneer of modern dance in India. So, and he took from the rich folk traditions and the classical traditions, and he added his own stamp to it. So we were learning his style, but through his style, I came to learn about folk, and the music they used was absolutely wonderful. I remember constantly listening to Ananda Shankar's music, Uday Shankar's son's music. So a great deal of it was a great combination of music and dance, from my parents, from from all around me, whether it was classical or Bollywood. It was a constant fixture in our lives. So that was my first teacher. My first Indian classical teacher was in Kalamandalam, Calcutta, Guru Thankamani Kutti. I learned Bharata Natyam from her, and we started doing Bharata Natyam, and then one of her students who had learned Bharatiya Natya Shastra as recompiled by Dr. Padma Subramaniam, I learned with him for 2 years, and we did the Bharatiya Natya Shastra, the Karanas, and also the Abhinay Darpan, and so it was a great place to be, because we were learning the root of all Southeast Asian dance forms. So it had aspects of Kathak, aspects of Odissi, aspects of, or I shouldn't say aspects, this is where everything sort of came from. So it was the kind of the treatise, as it were, of all Southeast Asian forms, and some of the steps that were in the Natya Shastra or in the Karanas were even similar to classical ballet, like rond de jambes or releves or fondues. So that kind of really gave me what I believe is what I hope is a thorough understanding of the body, and the connection of the body to the soul, to the spirit, because there is a reason the sculptures are placed a certain way. Everything has a code and a meaning, and you kind of have to look beyond all the exotica and all the ornaments and actually go into what they're saying. And funnily enough, if you see Bollywood dancing, it can't help but take richly from these classical forms, and even sort of pre-classical form, which was the Natya Shastra, just in the way it moves, from its folk traditions, from its classical traditions. Bollywood used to be this great mixture of folk and all the 8 classical forms and the Natya Shastra. Then something really interesting happened. In 1990s, Rupert Murdoch, Star TV, introduced Star TV in India. Cable TV was huge. So Bollywood films found themselves competing with MTV, with Channel V. So, I was a teen at that time. So, we were watching Michael Jackson or Madonna or George Michael, and we were watching these sort of great dance and pop stars. And it was very inspiring. And the great thing about India is that there's this osmosis. It kind of seeps in every other culture, and takes it and distills it and then gives it back, Indianized. And I always thought that it was so fascinating. And whether you like it or not, it's intensely watchable. And of course, going back to the 1990s, when these films were competing with teenagers, because you have to remember that the Bollywood market is a huge market. It's everything from the starving farmer in rural Bihar to the non-resident Indian living in a computer.